giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We are streaming live on YouTube, and of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker Steele. Boom! You see it. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, we are putting a bow, a wrap on the Week 1 victory by talking about Tape Tuesday, baby. We're going to break down some tape. I'm going to give you my observations of what I saw. Plus, I'm bringing in my good buddy, John Owning of PFF, to help me do so. He has a very astute eye, very, very good eye on everything that is Cowboys and football. So we'll bring him in. We'll talk a little Cowboys defense with him and whatever else is on my guy's mind. Plus, in the roundup, man, we got some great news. We got some great news in the roundup, so I couldn't be more happier to share that with you here in a second. But what's good with your Bomb Squad?
Bomb Squad!
Did y'all happen to watch the Monday Night Football game? I mean, you couldn't ask for a better way to kind of round out Week 1, right? I mean, I know it wasn't a great game, but it was some good football being played, specifically by the home team there. But I was watching that, and I feel like I do this every time the Niners are on, and they're the only team playing, and I'm just like, man, that's a hell of a run scheme, ain't it? I say that to say, put a pin in me talking about the run scheme because, you know, at some point, one of these years, we're going to catch up. I don't know when it's going to be, but we're going to catch up. So we're going to talk about the run game, and when we look at the film observations, we're going to talk about the game plan as well. That's one of my major things, right? Like, what was the plan like? I actually liked this plan early on in the game. So we'll break all that down, and we'll get into it with our guy, almost said Patrick No-C Walker, John Owning. Pat's later in the week. We got PFF's John Owning joining us in about 30 minutes or so. At some point, I will get some callers up in here too. 351-999-3787. Shouts out to you guys, the Bomb Squad, joining me this morning. You could be anywhere, but you are starting your Cowboys day with your boy. So let's get into the roundup, quick injury news, and then we'll get to some of my notes. All right, let's do it.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It is time for...
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Let me talk to you.
Let me talk to you, Cowboys Nation. So yesterday, you know, we kind of got a little bit of good news before Monday even arrived, right? Like Dak Prescott said in the post game, man, I think we dodged a bullet. We got another report that said, hey, it didn't seem like it was a torn ACL. Then sometime later in the day, we got reports that it was a sprained MCL. Well, yesterday I'm just chilling, and I saw a tweet from Jake Ferguson himself, and Jake was like, God is good. And immediately, me and probably thousands of us followed up with what? God is good all the time. And all the time, God is good. I said, thank you, Jesus. Woo! Ferg is all right, y'all. Ferg is all right. Todd Archer. Jake Ferguson could still play Sunday against the New Orleans Saints after being diagnosed with a bone bruise and a minor sprain of the MCL in his left knee that he suffered on Sunday versus the Browns, according to a source. So, look, I don't know if that he's going to play this week. Maybe this is just posturing, right? But this is more. It sounds like it's more day to day than it is week to week, which it felt like when we first heard MCLs. And that's why I'm not a doctor. I just stayed at a Holiday Inn. I bring the actual doctor up in here, right? I don't like to project unless the reports say whatever it says. And there was no report that said Jake Ferguson would be out 3 to 4 to 5 weeks. But when you hear sprain, that's immediately what goes to your mind. Like, oh man, a sprain is probably going to be about a month. But I said, let me sit my ass down here. I don't know. We haven't got any reports yet. So Todd comes out with this, and we continue to hear good news. Jake could be back a lot sooner rather than later, and you love to hear that. I will say this though, and I'll show a play. With Jake out, that meant more snaps for a guy like Brevin Spann-Ford. They only dressed 3 tight ends in the game. And he had to play 19 snaps in that game, probably a lot more than they wanted to. But there was this one particular snap. I was like, okay, that's what we like to see, Brevin Spann-Ford. You know, not an easy defensive line to go up against. And there's another snap, Luke Schoonmaker. And this is more in a blocking situation. Actually, it's the same play. I'm going to show you a little bit later here where that was some encouraging tape they put out there. But we want our guy back, right? We want our guy back. We want to get Jake Freaky Ferg back here because he's going to be an important part of this offense moving forward. And if you guys remember, again, I'll bring this up as we break this thing down. I talked about, hey, Jake, not just yet. I didn't think Jake was going to have this crazy game just yet because we were going to have to use him to help with this defensive line. Well, the Cowboys did that. Not just with him, but with the tight ends in general, with extra blockers in general, and we'll break that down as well. So good news on that front. Jake Ferguson, absolutely love to hear it. Real quick, we got a super chat that snuck up in here. Shouts out to you, John Mayberry, early in the building.
Super chat.
Dropped 5 and said, Sky, would you be willing to give up a 2nd and a 5th for Devontae Adams? Look, John, I would love to play fantasy football with you here, but that just feels extremely unrealistic. So I'm not really going to entertain it too much. I appreciate the super chat. I thought when I first seen this super chat, I thought you were I saw a 5th round pick and I thought you were going to bring up running back because of what happened yesterday in San Francisco. But San Fran, man, they just can put anybody back. This is no disrespect to Christian McCaffrey. The reason why Christian McCaffrey is so elite is because he's elite as a runner and as a pass catcher out the backfield. And he can block, and he can inside, outside. He finishes. He's the most complete back in the National Football League. He just happens to get hurt, and he's hurt. But they throw back the undrafted guy from last year, Mason, and he just runs to the tune of 150 yards. 150 yards. Why? Because scheme. You go look at the actual players up front for the San Francisco 49ers. It's not crazy. They don't. Trent Williams and who? It's Trent in the gang. No disrespect to those guys, but the scheme is so damn supreme, you're able to do that. And once I get into some of my notes, we're going to jump into the film room and look at specifically the run game. I'll give away a little bit of the show. We're going to look at some of the run game, the good and the bad, and what worked and what needs work. So we'll look at that as well. But before we do that, I got to bring my brother up in here. He said, let me call into the show real quick. Vach, Sky. What's good, Vach?
Man, first of all, God bless you, bless your family, bless all the food you eat today, first and foremost, and all that. But man, Sky, Trent, and J.D. McKivitz, and Jeffrey Kofelkovich.
Come on.
Jeffrey Kofelkovich that went up there, and the 49ers' third running back, boy,
crazy.
Went out there and looked better than ours. Now, Sky, listen, man, I'm not going to say nothing crazy because I don't want nobody fussing on your show. But there's a misconception that people feel like I hate Ezekiel Elliott. Some people then kind of pegged you as a Zeke hater or just whatever, right?
Yeah, that's what they
do. we just don't want to settle on the run game. We just feel like we are a run game away from being truly elite, Skywalker Steel. And these people talking about some, oh yeah, that 10 for 40, Voch, that's hidden. No. This third string running back from the San Francisco 49ers is better than anything we got. And yeah, he the third string because Elijah Mitchell hurt. Man, you know what I'm saying? I'm just sitting up here watching this character rush for damn triple digits versus the Jets defense, Skywalker Steel. Versus the Jets defense, Skywalker Steel. Versus the Jets defense, and yeah, scheme has a large piece to do with it. I'm not going poo-poo on that, Sky. But boy, not only did he make people miss, but he was running through arm tackles, Skywalker Steel. Yeah. And the first carry we get from 15, he tried to jump over somebody and he landed in the same spot. He left the earth, Sky. So yeah, man, I'm not gonna take this opportunity to fight nobody in our chat because we love everybody in the chat. Me and Will Steele would be nothing without the people that's in the chat right now. But I just want to offer a question, and I'm about to read the comments as I go to the gym. Did watching the San Francisco 49ers third-string running back do what he did versus that Jets defense? Does it make you look at your running backs a little different? That's all I want to ask Skywalker Steel. I'm going to go into the chat. I'm going to enjoy the show, and I'm going to read a gang of these comments, bro. I love you to pieces, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, bro. Much love. That's my guy. Oh, gosh. You got to love my brother, Voch. He's so damn messy. He's so messy. You see what he do? He bring the mess over here. But you heard the man. He asked the question. What you got to say? Is it Jordan Mason? Jordan Mason. Be a better back here. I don't even think. Look, man. Of course I would love to have a Jordan. You get some young, fresh legs, powerful legs. Yeah, that's all I kind of wanted. To begin with, but they didn't go do that. But yeah, man, Jordan Mason looked good. He looked good. He played in that scheme well. He did last year too, by the way, against the Cowboys. We saw Jordan Mason against the Cowboys rack up like over 5 yards per carry on us. I think it was, and he went out there and rushed for 5.3, a tutty, a 24-yarder. I think that might have been a touchdown. Can't remember. But man, great game plan, and I would love for us to adapt that. But I have some thoughts on why I don't think that's going to happen. But, I mean, talk about segue. Just Voch brings that in. I brought up the Niners on purpose because when I go into my Sky Optics, right, for those who don't know what that is, that's just me basically giving some of my opinions on what I saw from the tape. And I'll list these are just 3 of the things. There's many things that I'll break down within this. I have first half diverse game plan. Second half, did they bog it down? Was bogged down on purpose? And then run game, how still needs work. Let's talk about the first half diverse game plan. From now on, that's how you drive. When I talk about actually coming out with a purpose and feeling like, hey, man, you guys definitely got in that lab and worked on something to combat the opposing offense or the opposing defense's strength. McCarthy did that. If you go back and look at the halftime show, we talked about one of the things that was the biggest matchup to me. The most important matchup was Mike McCarthy versus Jim Schwartz. And McCarthy won that first half without a shadow of a doubt. You saw, like we said, the early jet sweeps to help in the run game. You saw them moving the pocket with Dak, right? You got Garrett and Zadarius Smith over there. That's a good front. So they were moving the pocket, running away from Miles, making them chase, getting them tired. I'm watching that tape, and I think I said this yesterday. I said early on, they was moving Miles around, and he wasn't in there. And look, maybe it's early, it's week 1, and he's trying to get in football shape, but that's what you got to do. Make Miles have to chase you, right? And then executing it. Dak was in the zone early on. In that first half, he had 104 quarterback rating. It was like 14 for 21. A buck, was it 50? I don't know what it was. A buck something and a touchdown. Took care of the ball. He was sharp. That first half was a great game plan. All right. The touchdown pass, a thing of beauty. Recognize what they're in. Fix the protection. Motion in your guy. deliver a dot, not even really a dot, but deliver the ball, getting hit, touchdown. But there was an added emphasis, and shouts out to my guy, J.O. There was an added emphasis, on protecting Dak and helping out your tackles. Again, we talked about, hey, Jake's going to have to help. Chip, block, release. You won't see him downfield too much. You did see the seam shot. They tried to hit him with the seam early down in the red area, and almost do an interception. But a lot of it was chip, get out. Running game help, right? Tight ends, in tight, we're helping out. To the tune of, great stat here, the Cowboys used 6 or more pass blockers on 46% of their passing plays against Cleveland. That was the highest since week 4 of last year, and higher than any game last year. Week 4 last year, they used 45%. So there was clearly a plan to say, we're not going to, what do we say? Don't let 95 wreck the game. Survive 95. We've seen him wreck games before. And they said, okay, to do that, we're going to have to give a little bit extra help from time to time, whether it be the tight end, whether it be the running back. And the backs did well blocking. We saw a couple of those plays where Zeke showed the Zeke blocking ability that he is. Rico also was doing good things in the blocking department. The sacks, again, it was 3 sacks. The first one on the first play of the game. Then after that, they really weren't going crazy. I get it. Tyler Guyton, and we'll get to that here in a second. He had some issues early on in that game, but he also won a whole lot too. We'll get to Tyler here in a second, but wanted to talk about that first half diverse game plan. I thought it was great, and I would like to see a little bit more of that as we move forward. Now, in the second half, it got bogged down, and I have here on purpose because of the game. Like, the game was out of hand, 27-3. You didn't have to do too much, and this is how I figured this was on purpose. The Cowboys used pre-snap motion 26 times in this game. 26. They only used pre-snap motion 7 times in the second half. When they used pre-snap motion in that first half, they had plays of 34 yards, 21 yards, touchdown, and these are pass plays, 11 yards, 18 yards, 15 yards, and they had some solid runs. In the second half, 3 yards, 12 yards, no gain. Those are pass plays. So I think just that alone clearly shows we're shutting this down. We're up 27-3. We're shutting it. Let's get up out of here and let's get this victory. No more injuries. They shut it down. Now, what I would have liked to see them do in doing so, work on that run game. Work on that run game how? Because that, to me, ladies and gentlemen, and I said this yesterday to y'all before I even went and watched the tape. I said it looked mighty familiar. It looked exactly like last year. A bit sloppy. Everything was tough and hard. And then, when you don't have a legitimate running scheme, when there is windows of opportunities, you have to take advantage of it, right? Like, I talked to you guys about that play with Rico Dowdle. We're going to actually show that in the film. And again, that's just one play, and who's to say that he would even scored? But you got to take advantage of that. It's week 1. This offensive line has to gel together, no doubt about it. But from week 1, it doesn't seem like anything has changed from that point. And with that said, I think I've come to the conclusion between McCarthy, Schottenheimer, Solari, and some of y'all might be like, well, duh, Skyler, they're all 78 years old. But between these guys, these are older school gentlemen, right? Like, McCarthy comes from the old school. Solari was here when Tom Landry was here, Cowboys. Tom Landry. And Shotty comes from Shotty ball, right? Not the freshest of ideas probably coming out of that room. And they hired a guy to go look at tape from Boston College. I told y'all when we talked about the run game stuff, I said, I don't know if he has enough juice to change up an entire run scheme in that room. So do we really have the freshest the updated style of the zone blocking, the pre-snap action, the post-snap action, that manipulates defenders. I don't think that's the case. So you're definitely going to have to rely on the individuals up there to be on it, consistently on it. And then the running backs, the ability of the running backs become a lot more important to me. I want to make sure I don't speak on both sides of my mouth here. If you have a precise run scheme and you can block it up, you can afford to not have to have a Adrian Peterson in the backfield. But if you have, and I'm just going to talk about the Cowboys, this specific style of run scheme, and so far, we'll see what happens as we get to week 8, 9, 10, this type of run blocking, I do think the talent matters a little bit more. And I think that's where the fight is happening with the running back room amongst fans is I think we all understand it's not a crazy talented backfield. They all have their own individual things they do well, but then you need to lean into that. And it doesn't seem like the Cowboys, that's something that they're in the business of. But we got a long way to go. Before I get into the film, let's talk about the rookies, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Guyton. I thought Beebe had an outstanding debut. Really good in pass protection. Out in space, you seen him miss on the screen. That was tough because Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is like a blur. Still, I think he's still getting familiar with things in space. I have no worries about him. I really don't have worries about Guyton either. Again, Guyton in week 10 and 15 will be better than week 1. He survived. Tyler Guyton survived, Cowboys Nation. That's all you could really ask for. You saw some run plays where it was like, okay, there's some of that drive I didn't see in college. There's some of that strength I didn't see. And then you saw, he's on the ground and the technique. We talked about his hands and things like that. And sometimes when you get tired or sometimes when, it gets tight, you revert back to what you've been used to. And you saw that with Tyler, wide hands, slow hands, missing, leaning. And that's a tough matchup. Zadarius Smith, Myles Garrett, that's not easy. You're going to revert back to some things that you feel comfortable with. And going into this game, I remember I said, he's going to lean on his athleticism, but don't let that lead you astray from your technique. Because, look, man, Myles Garrett's going to make you get to your reservation fast. He's going to make you think. And if you miss, well, like we saw in camp and we saw in his tape, he tends to get leany. He tends to, that's who he is. And those things will hopefully be cleaned up as we move forward. But damn it, he survived 95. So I call that a dub, even though it might have not been the cleanest game. It still was a win for me because he didn't, and the team didn't. McCarthy and those boys didn't let Myles Garrett wreck this game. So let's jump into this film room real quick. I do want to show some of these running plays that I pulled here because some of these are good plays. Some of these plays worked. Some of these plays, there needs to be more work. And damn it, I should have had Vach on here for some of these because there's some offensive line things that I just have questions about. Some designs that I have questions about. Let's take a look. I want to start off with the play that I've been talking about for the last 2 days where Rico Dowdle was pissed. Rico Dowdle wants this back. Now, there was good patience here, but he realizes immediately he probably should have just rolled that thing left, and he might have got a much bigger play. I'll let it run here. One thing you'll notice, too, about some of these plays is the yards before contact. Now, from the line of scrimmage, there wasn't a whole lot of yards before contact, but they don't get touched in the backfield a whole lot. But Rico's going to want this one back, Cowboys Nation. And he slams the ball after this. Let's take a look. You got, I think this is not Steele. This is BB and Martin at the second level. This is exactly where Rico's like, yeah. If he just plants that foot and goes, now we got numbers, right? Like now we got one-on-one blocking here. We got blocking here. And then you make these guys miss. You get paid too. So you make somebody miss if you need to. But instead, he cuts it back inside and he goes back into the trash. And if you watch Rico Dowdle after this, he's pissed. Slams the ball on the ground because he knows it. And that's what I mean by, look, nothing about that play was crazy. Schematically, it's just, hey, get a body on a body, get a hat on a hat. Running back, you find a hole, you find a lane, you make something happen. And he didn't in that case. So when you don't have a supreme scheme, you got to make these type of runs count, in my opinion. I did get positive yards, so I'll take it. Oh, this is just classic Zeke finishing strong, hard. I mean, take a look at number 9. I mean, that's a defensive lineman, bro, and he got him moving backwards. So this is just a strong run I just wanted to put in here. I mean, I like Cooper Beebe fighting with 90. I can't remember who 90 is. That's just a good play by 90 as well. But classic shotgun Cowboys run with Ezekiel Elliott in between the tackles, get you 4 yards, and we live to fight another day. Take a look at this left side, though. By left side, I'm talking about all these guys. Well, these guys here. This is what I love to see. Tyler Guyton, let's start from Tyler Guyton on. That's Darius Smith. This is what I want to see from Tyler Guyton. I love this in the ground game. Boom, strong, using that leverage bent, knee bend, moves Darius Smith out the club, almost off of the screen. And take a look at your boy Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith's so damn strong, man. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy touchdown. But this is, so when I talk about the Cowboys not having a creative run game plan, they'll do this. There are some basic things that they'll do, right? They'll get that tight end looking like he's going to wham block, but he's basically, this is off of a read option in a sense, right? Play action, and they dump it off to the tight end. They do this a lot. Look, if this is all you got, then run it to death. Because take a look at the right side here and how that tight end option holds this entire side. First of all, you got the safety completely abandoned in this gap. He's out of here. He's holding. He has to play off of Dak Prescott, and look what you got. A seam here, a seam here. I mean, that's easy. That's what you love. And you say, okay, if anybody wants any business, Ezekiel Elliott would dip that shoulder down, touchdown. Look, if we're not going to do a lot of the fun stuff offensively in regards to run game, let's just do that. More of that, please. This is where I would love to have Vach's input on. This play was very weird to me. I have failed trap here. Now, usually when you get a trap, if I'm not mistaken, you want a guy that's lined up more so here, right? Like you want this guy here so that the trap block comes here. Trying to get a trap from here. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Trying to get a trap from here to here. That seems rough and a tough ask. But this is what, watch the play. Just watch the offensive line. The design's strange to me. Just weird design to me. So what they're asking Terrence Steele to do, they want Cuzzo to get up here on this guy. But look where he's playing. Right? By the way, Terrence has a guy on the inside of his shoulder, so he has to deal with him. And then they're asking Zach Martin to get over here. And they want Tyler Smith to come around here on the trap. I don't know. It's just a questionable ask to me. Maybe you get out of this because they play so wide, but this is what you see on film. So if you know they play this wide, why not switch this up? Again, I'm no offensive coordinator. I'm no offensive line guru, but I don't think I necessarily like this design here. So what happens is because Terrence Steele has to get rid of Dalvin Tomlinson and then get to the second level with Hicks, he can't. Hicks has a free run now at Deshaun or at Deuce Vaughn. Yeah, you got Zach Martin here, and that's fine and dandy, but I don't necessarily like the design. Now, had you had, say you bring this tight end here, right? And you have him come across at the snap, maybe that holds that linebacker for a tick, or it takes him out the lane where Steele can get to him a lot easier. So just a questionable design to me. A good finish, though, by Deuce Vaughn. And, you never had a chance really to get a big play out of this because the way they were aligned and the way you had to design. It's a clinic by left side. This is a clinic by left side. Take a look at everybody on the left side. First off, let's start off with Hunter Lipke, who apparently is the first man up with Jake Ferguson out. Hunter Lipke had a good game blocking there. He's been so much better at the point of attack. Go back and watch the Jets game and go back and watch this game. He's night and day. The patience, he stays low, boom, fires up like he's hitting one of the sleds, turns them. Great freaking block by Hunter Lipke. Let's go down the line. Let's take a look at Luke Schoonmaker. Now, look, Luke has a task here, y'all. Luke is going up against Myles Garrett. And it wasn't the prettiest of wins because Myles Garrett can bench press Luke Schoonmaker, and he actually does bench press Luke Schoonmaker. But Luke, what he has to do here, he has to fire across Myles Garrett to pin him. And he kind of does, right? There you go, right there. I know if you screenshot this, you might be like, damn, Myles Garrett. But this is his job. Cross his face, turn, and pin him to the outside so you can create that lane. Luke did it. He might have got driven back 3-4 yards, but he did a damn good job. And then take a look at Brevin Spann-Ford, all 6'7", 270 of them. Get some good drive on number 30, all the way to the ground, to the dirt. Oh, by the way, check out your first round pick. Just drives number 90 out the club too. Love that play. I don't know how much more they're gonna run that without Jake Ferguson, but we'll see. They executed very well over there. This play here, sloppy between the tackles. Just again, there seems to be no rhyme or reason. This is another play I wish I had, Vach here for this. A lot of this last year too, though. A lot of sloppy play between the tackles. I let the play out, and I want you to see how many Cowboys are on the ground. One, two. You can't see it, but right down there is Tyler Smith. It's Tyler Smith down there, y'all. Is this supposed to be a combo block here? We want to get Tyler Smith to help out on number 90, then get him up on 42. Again, tough ask here if the play is designed to cut back this way because you've got a double team. And again, this may be a product of just having Myles Garrett out here, but you got a double team here on Myles Garrett. And you want to get him up here, but it's tough to do that when you got a guy right over top of him. So now 42 is going to stack, react, and fire down. It's a good play by 42, but sloppy between the tackles. Again, week one, going to happen, clean it up. But this is just kind of what I mean by when you don't have that like precise, crisp scheme, then you as individuals have to be precise and crisp. And this play goes down as a run because it was thrown backwards, but easy buttons. More of these. This actually comes from the Kellen Moore playbook. I don't think we do this enough. At snap motion. This is basically a long handoff. These guys aren't even out here trying to get looking for a pass, but you don't start blocking until the ball is thrown. More of this, please. I mean, look at this. Nobody around Ezekiel Elliott for just get touched till 9 yards. More easy buttons like that. If you're going to struggle in the how with the run game, then I feel like you need to do a little bit more of this to get that's an easy 9 yards. That goes down on the stat sheet as a 9-yard carry. That helps your yards per carry. Teams look at that stuff and say, oh, we gotta be mindful of that. And next thing you know, you fake that screen and you got a deep shot, right? That comes from the Kellen playbook. He actually ran a similar play against the with the Eagles against the Packers and got a wide open Devontae Smith down the sideline. I was shocked we didn't keep that in our playbook and we didn't use it. Still it. I'm still in every single one of these guys' plays that work like that. So that is my observations, some of the plays, some of the good, some of what worked, some things that still need work from the Cowboys run game. Game one, again, I didn't expect this offense to go crazy, especially with the pass game. But I wanted to see a little bit more on the ground in the how department. We got week two. The Saints aren't the same defense as the Cleveland Browns, so we'll see if they switch it up a little bit there. All right, y'all, we're going to switch gears here in a second. Let me just make sure we got my guy coming through. Boom. Bow. Indeed. All right, let's talk to one of the best football minds I know out here in this space, man. PFF's own John Owning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's drop some fire emojis in the chat for my guy, John. What's up, John?
Hey, how's it going, Sky? Happy to be here.
I appreciate you waking up mad early. It means a whole lot to me because you're over there on the West Coast. So, yeah.
Hey, man, got to do it for you. I know you got a fantastic show over here, so I'm willing to sacrifice a couple of these just to get on and talk some shop with you.
Man, I've been wanting to talk shop with you for a minute. You were on my boy Vach's show. You're on 105 through the Fan, breaking things down. I said, I got to get John on here specifically to break down this defense from yesterday because you, like myself, got really excited when Mike Zimmer was hired because of what he could do schematically. And I don't know that you could have asked for a better debut for Mike Zimmer's defense. I feel like you saw immediately at all three levels the difference from Dan Quinn's defense and why you should be encouraged moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. I think, especially from a schematic point of view, it just really weaponizes the Cowboys defense. You know, I think Dan Quinn did a lot of good things during his tenure here, but one thing that consistently kind of happened is that he would get out-schemed by, like, you know, the Shanahans, the McVays, specifically that coaching tree, the ones that utilize a lot of motion, a lot of play action, you know, doing a lot of second-level manipulation of the Cowboys defense, and the Cowboys would really struggle against those teams especially. But what Mike Zimmer does is Mike Zimmer, you know, gives them the weapons to fight back. I mean, I don't know how many times we saw yesterday when the Cleveland Browns would go in motion, you saw the Cowboys rolling and rocking their safety so that they would keep, you know, stay gap sound. They would keep the maths right is kind of something I always say. One thing that, you know, the Shanahan and McVays do extremely well, probably the best, that kind of coaching tree does the best in the entire NFL, is they create mathematical advantages on the outside for their receivers in the passing game. You know, they do that by using motion, using all these creative motions, whether it's a return motion, whether it's, you know, that fake motion where they look like they're going across the formation, they turn around and come back. These type of things help create these mathematical advantages where maybe to start the play, the defense had like four coverage defenders over three receivers, but when they create the motion to the other side, then now they have a 2-over-2. So now it's, instead of the defense having the mathematical advantage where they have an extra coverage defender who can kind of help out on where depending on wherever the routes distribute. When it's a 2-over-2, there's really not much that you can do, and you're kind of have two players left out on an island. And then when you start incorporating, you know, those split releases, all the different types of things that those coaching trees do to get their receivers open, you know, it makes life extremely difficult. And those are the situations where the Cowboys really struggle. But against the Browns, you saw the Cowboys keeping the math correctly, you know, rolling and rocking those safeties, you know, using the A-gap mug to create confusion up front. One thing I kind of want to touch on from a disguise point of view is when you see a lot of like the national writers and a lot of people who don't get to watch every game, but they go through and study the numbers and stuff, they kind of use teams that go from, you know, middle of the field close, pre-snap to middle of the field open, post-snap. Those are kind of a shortcut way for them to determine how much disguise a defense is doing, because they're changing the pre and post snap picture pretty drastically. But if you look at the Cowboys numbers in that facet yesterday, I don't have them right in front of me, but I believe that the Cowboys only disguised, like, I think it was 25 or 30% of their plays in that way. But what Mike Zimmer was doing is when they would stay closed pre-snap and then play, or middle of the field closed pre-snap and play middle of the field closed post-snap, one thing he was doing is he was rolling and rocking which safety would be in the back end. So say pre-snap, it was Donovan Wilson was playing deep, and then post-snap they would rock Wilson down into the box and roll Malik Hooker back. And while that's not a super drastic pre and post-snap change for the quarterback, it does change the personnel and where they're located and how they are distributed amongst the second level of that kind of the pass defense. And that does create some confusion because instead of maybe having a linebacker type on a receiver, Now you got a safety type on the receiver. And those type of things kind of create indecision. And we saw the Cowboys yesterday, even when they would have some, miscommunication in the secondary, or maybe they didn't have the best coverage in the secondary, they were still able to be successful because Deshaun Watson couldn't trust what his eyes were seeing. And that led to him holding the ball. I mean, we saw the Cowboys pass rush. The Cowboys pass rush yesterday, I think it can actually improve a lot moving forward, because a lot of their wins came when Deshaun Watson was holding the ball. They didn't get nearly as much quick pressure, under 2.5 seconds, as their rate was last year. So I think they can still really improve there, but the disguise extremely helped out the pass rush and their ability to go and generate pressure and make Deshaun Watson's life extremely difficult.
Yeah, the coverage sacks, I think, are going to be plenty with this team compared to last year. Not saying that they didn't cover well last year either, but just the simple thing you said, hey, it's not a lot with the rock and roll and the safeties, but Dan Quinn doesn't do that. He didn't do that a whole lot. So there wasn't a lot of change in that picture. And, something that the players said, I think it was Diggs and Michael Parsons, they were like, look, we didn't have to do a whole lot in this game. So like you said, there was only about 25-30% where they disguised things. Well, that's probably because the game was over after about the second possession in the third quarter, where they can kind of just coast now. And honestly, going back and watching it, I don't even think they needed to do a whole lot extra. They were just whooping on these dudes in general, so they could probably play more basic in their coverage and their rush responsibilities.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one other thing we saw is a much bigger menu of coverages on the Cowboys play sheet. I mean, with Dan Quinn, it was basically cover 1, cover 3 with a little bit of cover 2 sprinkled in there every once in a while. But with Mike Zimmer, we had, I think it was 4 or 5 different coverages that were used on over 10% of the snaps. And that's, all the basic ones, cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, and cover 6, which is quarter, half, obviously. So that greater menu of coverages also plays into the disguise, because the QB doesn't know, they're showing too high before snap, but they could rotate down to cover 1, or they're showing, cover 1 pre-snap, but they could roll into a cover 6, into a quarter, half, or into a regular cover 3, or go into a quarters. These type of things, and it gives you
coverages,
more. Yes, it gives you more weapons to be able to defend what the offense is doing. Say the offense is really fine-tuned on their cover 3 beaters. Well, then you go and you play cover 4, and that's kind of your counter to what they're doing. So I just think the Cowboys, in the chess game between the offense and the defensive coordinator, the Cowboys just have a much better player kind of at the head of the team. They're have these counters built in so that they're not, if an offense starts seeing some success, like we saw the Browns, they put together that one good drive, the Cowboys have counters for it ready-made that they can just shut that down the next drive and for the rest of the game.
And something else that Zimmer said in his presser, if you guys didn't get a chance to go check it out, go check it out. It'll be drastically different from Dan Quinn. He won't come out and he won't give you this rah-rah speech and then talk about how everybody was amazing. First of all, I love that Zim's like, yeah, he was good. He did a good job. He was all right. And Zim is not pumping these dudes' heads up. Where I remember Dan Quinn would be like, my gosh, he was fantastic. I'm just so extremely proud of him, and he was just pumping these dudes up, and that's fine. You need that, right? Mm-hmm. But Zim's like, nah, man, it was cool, but we got room to grow here. But one thing Zim said in his presser was the nose tackle position, the defensive tackle position. They're not stars. They got to do the dirty work, right? Help the linebackers free up the rushing or the run lanes for them to fill the gaps. And you go back and you watch that, it seemed like that's what they did for the most part. I know there were some struggles you talked about on Twitter, and at least early on, it seemed like Mozzie was handling things well. I know when he gets tired, he tends to start to lose that, but it felt like there was a lot more discipline with these defensive tackles and doing exactly what Skanina and Zimmer wanted them to do.
Yeah, 100%. You saw the effect that had on the second level of the Cowboys' defenses. The linebackers were able to pursue the ball, get to their gap without being immediately encumbered by a blocker, and that makes a giant difference with the overall soundness of your run game up front. And the fact that these defensive tackles don't have to play upfield and try to pierce their gap and create backfield havoc, they're kind of creating a wall up front rather than creating penetration up front. I think that just has allowed the Cowboys defense to be a lot more sound altogether. I think, Mozzie Smith, even though, I worked at PFF. His PFF grade wasn't great, but I highly disagree. That's one of the grades I think I disagree with most that I saw from week 1. I thought he played, I thought he was solid, especially like you said early in the game. And the fact that he only got 5 plays against the run, I think, is a big deal because that's not really a big sample size for him to get a good grade off of. But I thought he did good. He was taking on blocks. He was creating. He was resetting the line of scrimmage. One thing that I thought that was really, really promising for him is how quickly he got off the ball. There was 3 or 4 snaps where he was matching Osa Odighizuwa off the ball, and that's very impressive. I think in my notes I had him twice where he was notably slow off the ball, and I think that's just a giant improvement over what it was last year. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing how he continues to perform against teams that are a little bit more that look to run the ball a little bit more. But on top of Mozzie, I thought Linval Joseph was exactly as advertised.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember I said on Twitter that watching him rush the passer is like watching paint dry. It's not very good. He's not going to do much besides try to kind of push and kind of hold that center of the pocket. But against the run, man, that dude is tough to move, whether it's single teams, down blocks, base blocks, or it's double team and combos. He's just someone who's incredibly difficult to move off a spot. And you saw that against the Browns, and that allowed the Cowboys to create a lot of traffic on those inside runs when he was in the game and really nullify the Browns' ability to create, positive gains there. Jordan Phillips, I think he was probably the worst against the run in his, handful of snaps against the run. You saw him lose his gap a couple of times. He got reached, I think, twice. Got reached and hooked that would have allowed a lane to create if the Cowboys linebackers weren't playing at such a high level yesterday. But he did some good things rushing the passer. The Cowboys got the only 330-plus pass rush specialist defensive tackle 3-tech I've ever seen.
His whole career has been that way. It's strange.
Yeah, that's always fun. And then Osa Odighizuwa, I think he didn't have, didn't get the pressures. He didn't have the run stops. He didn't create the production that we are normally used to seeing from him, especially early on in the season. But he did a lot of the dirty work. I don't think any defensive tackle on the Cowboys fights as hard as him on a snap-to-snap basis. A lot of that's because he's undersized, so he has to fight. When he's fighting those double teams, you see him crawling for grass, trying to hold his ground against these double teams. He's really working incredibly hard there, and I think that is, that paid off for the Cowboys' run defense. Actually, one guy that kind of really struggled against the run when he was lined up at DT is Chauncey Golston. But I think that's something that we're used to. He's much better as a run defender when he's on the edge. But the problem is he rushes the passer so well from the interior, you don't really want to take away that facet either. So it's kind of a dichotomy where you're trying to, pick and choose when he's playing on the interior in these passing situations. And when you get in those situations and the opposing team surprisingly runs, you're kind of in a tough spot because I would say Golston is probably the worst run defender who plays defensive tackle, semi-regularly. So that's kind of a tough position. You kind of, it's tough to judge when passing and running with him. But
fortunately,
overall,
John, John, you have a Marshawn Nealon on the outside and DeMarcus Lawrence on the edge who does a great job at containing, and even Michael Parsons, you talked about as well on Twitter. These defensive ends, this wasn't Dan Quinn just firing up field, getting after the quarterback. I thought they played very sound, and it helped, some of these linebackers, stack, see it, and react and get it. So, your opinion here on these defensive ends, Micah, D-Law, Marshawn Nealon in his first go.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed by their just collective gains as a whole. Micah Parsons, he's playing a little bit lighter this year, but you would have never guessed it by the strength that he was displaying in week 1. I mean, his ability to set the edge against these guys that outweigh him by 50, 60, 70 pounds was super impressive. He was playing with power. There was one play where he was lined up at 3-tech, and he just shedded Wyatt Teller to make a tackle. Those are incredibly impressive things, especially given that Wyatt Teller is one of the better guards in the NFL. I was just incredibly impressed by Micah and Parsons' entire game, not surprising. Everybody else was as well. DeMarcus Lawrence, I think he's the best run defender defensive lineman in the entire NFL. I think he does fantastic fantastic stuff. He had a really productive game, but honestly, it should have been so much more productive given all the missed tackles that he had, both against the run and the pass. But, you know, as far as taking on blocks, doing his job, of course he did fantastic there. And his hustle on a down-by-down basis is just infectious for the entire defense. I thought Marshawn Kneeland, as a rookie in his first game, performed very admirably against the run. You know, he uses his length extremely well. He does a fantastic job of setting the edge, and he has the ability to shed quickly. I think that's something that's very important, especially for rookies. We've seen with Mozzie that he can be a little bit slow to shed, but Marshawn Kneeland, he's very assertive, and he is able to discard blockers and get in on, you know, a couple of tackles per game. That's really, really impressive and, you know, promising for a rookie in his future. I think he's someone who's going to be able to develop into a real, you know, DeMarcus Lawrence is getting up there in age, and I think Marshawn Kneeland has everything that he's shown so far is shown to be a guy who can kind of take that mantle once DeMarcus Lawrence's Cowboys career is over.
Well, I'm kind of burying the lead here, man, but the linebackers on Sunday, I said this, I think I might have said it on Twitter. I feel like this was the best I've seen a duo of linebackers play for the Cowboys since 2018. And I don't think that's hyperbolic. I don't. I remember the 2018 year rookie season of LVE and Jalen Smith's like lone amazing year. I don't know that I saw a linebacker play that good. And it's weird. I'm gonna say headline by Demo because I want to start with Demo. But Kendricks was a problem too. But let's start with Demo in his first game back off the ACL. Just, I mean, what he did everything so damn good, John.
Yeah, I mean, just pick a facet, and right. He was impressive in it. I think the thing that kind of jumps off when you're watching him on tape is just that frenetic energy that he has and his ability to close in a blink of an eye on ball carriers. You saw that surprised Deshaun Watson more than a couple times. You know, he didn't think that Demo was going to be able to get up on him so quickly. But he just has that closing speed like Micah that allows him to be a blur, and he just closes the gap between him and ball carriers so quickly that there's not much that they can do. You know, and one thing probably the thing that impressed me most about Overshown is in college he didn't have the best processor. You know, he would do poor gap fits at times. He would get manipulated by pullers. He would get manipulated by, you know, play action, all these type of things that offenses throw out at linebackers to make their life difficult. That would kind of give him fits. But in this game, he was just so sound in those departments. His processing was quick. He was getting to his run fit quickly and accurately. He was doing he's always made the athletic plays that are impressive, but he was making the football intelligent plays. And on top of that just shows you the growth that he's had so early on in his career. I mean, I totally agree with you that this is the best linebacker, you know, performance that we've seen since that Van Der Esch rookie year with Jalen Smith. You know, just two guys that were just playing out of their minds. You know, DeMarvion Overshown, there were times, you know, he was matching pullers and taking on blocks as well. He's an undersized linebacker, but his ability to take on blocks and to make the running back indecisive about what gap he's going to hit was so good. And then you saw the stuff he did in the passing game and his ability to match running backs and, you know, limit yak and his ability to spy on the QB. He's just going to be such a valuable asset in this defense, especially when you've got a guy like Zimmer who throughout his entire career, when he's had great linebackers, he's been able to give even the best QBs in the NFL fits. I mean, Aaron Rodgers used to talk about all the time how much the mugging of the A-gaps with Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks was such a problem for him in his career. And I think you're going to see that same thing with DeMarvion Overshown and Eric Kendricks this year.
Yeah, you know, when you were talking about the difference between recognition and patience and things like that, I immediately start thinking about our guy, Paul Gunther. I start thinking about, you know, coaching, how it matters because, you know, just looking at how the linebackers play, the defense in general, but how the linebackers play, you know, Zimmer and Gunther are teaching these guys how to play differently than, say, George Edwards was or Scott McCurley was. Even though McCurley's here, McCurley is basically teaching them what those guys want him to do. So, you know, listening, you say, yeah, you know, the difference between Demo now and Demo in college, yes, he has a year under his belt and studying and whatnot, But I think the drastic jump from that, because usually you see backers take some time with that, because in college they're always doing this eye candy stuff, and the NFL starting to adopt it. I didn't see a lot of these backers or defensive players in general, getting tripped up with the eye candy. And I think a lot of that credit can go to the coaching, but also the coach on the field. Eric Kendricks doesn't get tripped up often. He's a veteran. He's been around. He knows this defense, and he's been huge, probably huge in helping these young guys. And he said, wait a minute, I'm not just a veteran that's going out here to be a leader. I can still play too. And he proved that on Sunday.
100%. I said it on Twitter before that I think Eric Kendricks has the best, processor, and he's the best key in diagnosing linebacker that the Cowboys have had since Sean Lee. That's since he's come into the NFL. That's something that he's been fantastic at, and you saw it on Sunday. His ability to get off his spot quickly, get to his gap. Now, people may think that that's just a minor thing, but it's huge because it messes with the angles that the climbing linemen have to get to the second level. And when the linebackers can get off their spot quickly and get to their run fit, that's going to give them such a better opportunity to not only beat blocks, but to also make plays. And that's exactly what you saw when you saw the interior defensive line doing their job, holding their ground, slowing the climbing linemen's ascent to the second level. And then you saw the second level getting off their spot quickly. It was just a match made in heaven, and it allowed the Cowboys' run defense to be, more sound almost than we saw entirely last year. And I think that's something that's going to continue. So, Eric Kendricks has been a fantastic add for the Cowboys defense, his intelligence, his ability in coverage and against the run. We don't talk enough about his ability to spot drop and read QB's eyes in coverage. Yeah. He'll probably get an interception or two in that facet this year, as he's done throughout his entire career. So I'm just incredibly excited. Everything that Zimmer has brought to this defense with this personnel. One thing that I've kind of repeatedly cautioned fans about is that historically Mike Zimmer's defenses in those first years, they start slow. They have struggles because defenders are learning this complicated scheme. And when you're learning a complicated scheme, especially in today's NFL where practice time is limited, miscommunications happen. It usually takes some time for them to get comfortable in this type of scheme. But the Cowboys defense just seems like they've taken to it incredibly well, incredibly quickly. Yeah. And even though there was maybe a couple things, it wasn't nearly as numerous as what you would expect given Zimmer's history in the past. I think this Cowboys defense, we just have just a match made in heaven with personnel and defensive coordinator that you don't see happen so quickly in the NFL so often.
I think a lot of that has to do with them already having a base of star players and veteran players on his team. He even said it. He said the difference between this job coming back here and all the other ones he had in his first year was this is already a good defense. I don't have to do I don't have to add a whole lot to make this defense, better. When you got 2 all-pro corners, although one was out, all-pro pass rusher, Pro Bowl defensive end. Yes, he needed to get his guys at defensive tackle. That's no doubt about it. Yes, he needed to bring in an Eric Kendricks, but he had potential in that linebacker room. Zim just had to come in and do what the Zimmeister does, and so far so good. Last thing here for the defense, we're going to go back to the defensive backs quickly, and I kind of want to focus on the corners because we were talking about rocking and rolling the safeties. But Diggs' debut after his ACL, his first game back, looked like he had no issues. And Kalen Carson, if he catches the ball, he's got 2 interceptions. But outside of that, I thought a fantastic debut. Lots of confidence built, I think, moving forward without DaRon Bland for the next few weeks.
Oh, yeah. Given the fact that they were down, an all-pro corner, just a fantastic performance all the way around. I think that the way that they were utilized, where they were kind of bluffing their alignments at times, where they would line up like they're in press and bail out off, or they would be an off and kind of run up at the last second and play a little bit of press. Really like, that disguise, keeping, receivers off guard, keeping the quarterback guessing. Those type of things are great. And can't say enough good things about Trevon Diggs. Thought he was elite against the Browns. His ability to be sticky in coverage was fantastic. He didn't give up the big play. He was sound in his technique. You didn't see him take the bait on underneath stuff so that they could try to get open on him deep very much. So that was fantastic. And obviously the ball skills that come down with that interception was incredibly impressive. Kalen Carson being a rookie, playing the way he did. It's unfortunate that he has bricks for hands, but hopefully we can soften those hands out so we can haul in a couple of those throughout the season. But fantastic. And what can you say about Jordan Lewis? I mean, the guy just does the little things so well. He's playing in the slot, the Browns have some pretty good slot receivers with Elijah Moore and,
goes in there
we've
sometimes.
seen what Amari Cooper can do it in the slot. Yeah, obviously Jerry Jeudy is someone who has thrived in the slot throughout his career. And I thought Jordan Lewis did really, really well in those areas. And especially when you have a quarterback who's indecisive, and you have a quarterback that also, is afraid of the pass rush, so he's trying to get the ball out quickly. It allows these defensive backs to play tighter coverage, allows them to kind of jump these early routes, especially in the middle of the field. And, the Cowboys were just having so much success in those areas. We saw some things where there's some miscommunications where Watson had guys open deep, but I think those are things that can easily be ironed out as the season goes along. And I'm very happy. And I thought the safeties played extremely well too. The thing about in Dan Quinn's scheme, the safeties kind of had, I don't want to say an easy job, but an easier job because they were kind of siloed into their roles. They kind of did what they did, and there would be, a change up every once in a while, but it wasn't something that they had to regularly do. But in Zimmer's defense, these safeties have to be interchangeable. You have to be able to play in the box, be able to play single high deep. You have to be able to play split safety. You have to be able to play quarter half. You have to be able to buzz down into the flats, buzz down into the hook. You have to be able to blitz. You have to be able to support in the run. So there's a lot more on the shoulders of these safeties, and I thought that they answered extremely well. I thought both of them played very well, Malik Hooker and Donald Wilson. Obviously, Donald Wilson is the headhunter in the secondary. He's gonna be that one kind of creating that intimidation over the middle of the defense, and that's something you love to have. And then you have Malik Hooker, who's one of the more underrated tacklers on the team, and he's probably the best coverage safety on the team. So I just really love the personnel that the Cowboys have on the back end to be able to utilize all these different things that Mike Zimmer is supposed to do. And you said it at the beginning that Mike Zimmer didn't even dive into his full menu of plays that he can do. I mean, everybody knows that when we start getting the third downs in these high leverage situations, Mike Zimmer likes to get loco. He likes to go a little crazy with his blitz looks, with his combination coverage looks. He likes to get really, really complicated, and I'm really excited to see that as the season goes on and they continue to incorporate more and more of his defense, that he's going to get real crazy on third downs, and we're going to see some exciting stuff.
Think about this for a second. Mike Zimmer has been one of, if not the best third down defensive coordinators in his time. And Sunday, they didn't even show a whole lot, like you said. He wasn't the madman Zim. And the Browns went 2 for 15 on third down, Cowboys Nation, in week one, his first outing. I cannot wait to see this defense continue to gel together, man. It's just a start of what could potentially be a defense that, if need be, can carry you as the offense figures things out when these tough games start to happen here.
100%. I think week one, everything went about as well as you could possibly hope for the defense, and it just set the tone, hopefully, for what's going to be a fantastic year. Going in, I thought that the Cowboys had, because they were going to start slow, I didn't think that they had top 5 defense kind of in their purview. But based on the way they performed week one, obviously the Cleveland Browns offense isn't anything special. So it's going to be interesting to see when they play these really these top offenses, how things are going to go. The ones that, they don't miss out on their opportunities very often. It's going to be interesting. But I think the Cowboys, we have a chance to have a top 5 defense. And when you have a top 5 defense in addition to an offense that has CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, I think you have an opportunity to have one of the best teams in not only the division in the conference, but also in the NFL. So I think I'm really excited about where things can go for this Cowboys team.
As am I. That's John Owning, Cowboys Nation of PFF, one of the best out there doing it. Appreciate you for joining us, man. Let them know, by the way, where they can go and find your work, not just via PFF.
appreciate you. Really happy to be here. Hope we get to do it again soon. And just follow me on Twitter at John Owning, JOHNOWNING. That's where I do my post-game threads, talk about – that's basically where I do all my writing now that I'm not working for the Dallas Morning News. So if you want to get my thoughts and opinions on the Cowboys, that's where you go. And a little exclusive for you, I'm excited. Just got a little birdie in my ear at PFF told me today we might be able to start bringing all 22 clips back to the timeline.
Whoa. Wait a minute. You can't just be dropping that on me. I've been asking you to do that for 2 years.
I know. I woke up this morning, saw the little message in my Slack box, and a giant smile came over my face. So won't know for sure until kind of toward the end of this week, but things are looking up. And if that's the case, next week when I do my post game, we might have some clips involved. So I'm super excited and jazzed for that.
All right, man. Hey, appreciate you, man. Go get some rest. Get back to work. And again, follow him on Twitter at John Owning for amazing breakdowns after the game and leading up to the game, too. Don't sleep on that, man. But appreciate you, John.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Salute. It's John Owning, ladies and gentlemen, of PFF. If you don't know PFF, Pro Football Focus. His work is there. Does great stuff. He does post-game things on Twitter, but he also has articles leading up to the game on PFF. One thing I've always told myself, grade-wise, I don't necessarily go crazy about their grades, but there's so many things on PFF, statistics and whatnot, research that helps lead you to answers, right? Not saying it's end all be all, because there's many different things out here. NFL Pro, shouts out to them. Great stuff there, Next Gen Stats. But I do use PFF a lot in regards to snap counts and alignments and other statistics. It's really, really good stuff over there. And John does great stuff for the Cowboys. So we'll get him back at some point. But in the meantime, in between time, quick break. Get you some water. We'll come back. If you want to call in, 351-999-3787. We will talk to y'all in the chat. And before I go on this break, I don't know why the ads do this. I don't work for YouTube. I don't know why they did this. I hate that this is happening. I'll talk to A to Z and see what the hell is going on. I notice in here from time to time, y'all get frustrated with the ads. I think this is YouTube pushing subscribers to purchase premium. And if you purchase premium, there are no ads. So I think this is one of those iPhone situations, right? Remember when iPhone, no, I want to keep my iPhone. Okay, you can keep it, but we're going to bog it down to where you have to get a new one. I feel like that's what YouTube is doing. So y'all keep asking me about it. I don't know what I can do about it. I'll go look in the back and see what I can do in regards to the studio, but I'm just as frustrated because y'all keep saying that it's happening to you. So I'll try to figure something out, but write a stern letter to YouTube. I don't know what to do. Write a stern letter to YouTube. Chris said he has premium. It's nice. And you know what? If I was an avid viewer like this, I'd probably end up getting premium too, because it could be annoying. When I'm just watching regular YouTube videos, it gets annoying. So I feel you. But I don't watch a lot of live streams. I watch the videos. So apologies for all that. Now go get you something to drink.
You're listening to A to Z Sports.
Do it live!
At some point, hoping to broadcast
In front of the millions
of Cowboys fans to bring you the real. But for now, strap up and here's your host, Skywalker Steele.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. We'll do it live.
Toxic, you just reminded me. Thank you, sir. Is Sky telling me to get YouTube Premium? No. That's not what I said. You just reminded me to get that drop. Get drop. Gotta get that drop. Good stuff from our guy, John Owning. If you missed it earlier, I dropped my Sky Optics, some of my observations from the offensive side of the ball. Should say offense. First half, diverse game plan. Second half, they bogged it down, I think on purpose, because they didn't run a whole lot of motion. And then we talked about the run game, how still needs a lot of work. But I've come to the conclusion, Cowboys Nation. Where's my guy at? It is what it is. It is what it is. I've come to the conclusion it is what it is when it comes to our Cowboys run scheme. What Nick Saban say? It ain't happening. So quit asking. I try, you know. I try to hey, get out of here. I'm done listening to you. I try to be as loud as possible, respectfully, about that. And I don't pretend like I know. I don't know everything. I just observe what I see across the league and I say, well, let's do that. Seems simple enough. But when you have a coach as tenured as McCarthy with a scheme, I feel like those type of coaches are a little bit more stubborn, and all coaches are, and they're going to stick in their ways. And definitely when you got a coach like Mike Solari. Mike Solari is 78 years old or whatever it is. He was here back during the Reagan administration. So these guys are older, long in the tooth. I feel like they don't come from this new age of minds where they're always trying to take advantage of leverage and things like that. Yeah, I apologize, y'all. I don't know why he's doing this, but I'll look into it. I'll see if there's maybe a setting where we can turn that off, or at least, you know, cut it out just a little bit. But I'm with you. Somebody says, Sky, just do your own ads. We do. We do. We got a couple sponsors we'll be rolling out. Actually, a good bit of sponsors we'll be rolling out this week where I do my own ad reads. Y'all remember that? Those who were around the first 2-3 years, we do our own ad reads. So we don't even really rely on these ads. But YouTube, they did something a few years ago where it doesn't matter. They're throwing ads in all videos now. It used to be you had to be monetized and this and this and this. Now they're just throwing ads in every single video, and it doesn't matter. Skywalker's the A Night Ranger. Chill out. Premium is hard to unsubscribe. Stop. And it ain't cheap when I did subscribe. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. Big Flock. Yeah, you remember that show. That show was hilarious. No, that's not what I said. Real quick, the Coleman Cowboy.
Super chat.
He dropped a super earlier. $5. He said, did you see the Saints game? Not yet. That'll be today. Do you think the Saints are like that, or are the Panthers just not a good team? Hard for me to evaluate. Well, the Panthers are not a good team. That's for damn sure. That's not a good team. Especially week one, had to go on the road, right? They were in New Orleans, right? And the Saints aren't a terrible team, right? Like, the Saints are not a bad team, but are they 47-20 type team? No. But I'm gonna watch it today. Saints offense probably, because the 47 points had to come a lot from offense. So we'll do a lot of the Saints offense, and then tomorrow we're gonna turn the page, right? We put a bow. That's why I love the regular season. You know, Monday we react, Tuesday the tape, Wednesday, Thursday we start talking about the next game. So tomorrow we will talk about the Saints and probably the Saints offense against the Cowboys defense, and we'll break those guys down. But if that's all y'all got for me, man, that's all I got for you today on Tape Tuesday. Appreciate y'all for dropping by on the first edition of Tape Tuesday. I have some something I'm working on for these Tape Tuesdays where it's not just me. So I'm working on something, trying to jazz these things up a little bit more for you, get some more football minds in here, like a John Owning, but more so we're watching the tape together with y'all. So make sure y'all put a pin in that too. On your way out, please hit that like button. That is our virtual currency. Subscribe if you haven't. If you just jumped up in here, if you happen to pop in when John was talking, you're like, man, I like this. Hit that subscribe button to check us out. Hit the notification bell if you want to be alerted when we're doing all things on this channel. And don't forget, every Sunday or every game day live, I'm out there at Canvas Sports and Social. Yes. Rest in peace to the GOAT, James Earl Jones. That was tough to hear. Appreciate you, T-Jack. Says best morning show out there. I aim to be. With that said, good stuff today. Excited to break down this Saints game and get to you guys tomorrow on what to expect. I already saw somebody in there drop Taysom Hill. Hey, we got our own Taysom Hill. All right.
Push the goddamn button.
All right.
Push the goddamn button.
I'm gonna get out of here. I was gonna be petty all week, but you know, Emmitt Smith said, "Act like you've been there before. Act like you've been there before." I'm gonna act like I've been there before. I knew my quarterback was coming back. I knew QB3 wasn't like that, so I'm gonna act like I've been here before. We out of here. Love y'all. Peace.
Bomb Squad!